Hello internet friends and welcome to the video, SCP video number 3. If you've just arrived and you're like, Cayleigh, what the fuck is an SCP? You should just watch one of the previous SCP videos. I will link them down in the description. Basically, they're fictional creatures or objects that act abnormally in our world, and this is about the company that's charged with sort of watching over them, observing them, and getting fucked up by them. Again, these are fictional. I didn't think I'd have to say that, but apparently there's been some confusion. It's all in good fun. Speaking of fun, we're taking a step back into childhood, or, if you're me, dark nights in high school when I was too much of a goody two-shoes to be getting into actual trouble. What am I talking about? Playgrounds. At the park, or in the most unclean corner of your nearest Burger King playgrounds. Looking back at all the fun I had crawling through tubes and sliding down slides, I'm just glad I didn't have the thought of who came crawling before me the way I do now. Playgrounds are gross, is what I'm trying to say. Fluids everywhere. However, not only are these playgrounds nasty, they downright dangerous and creepy as hell, so without further ado, here are 3 creepy playground SCPs. Number 3 on our list is SCP-2483, SCP Class Euclid, Cayleigh Class Poor Murderous Emotionally Misunderstood Hair-Flipping Swing Set. The appearance of this particular SCP is a bit unknown. We do know it's a swing set, but it seems to have the ability to, quote, distort itself. So maybe you see a swing set with 4 swings and Jeff over there sees 5. But Jeff's a known Neanderthal, so we ignore Jeff. The description reads that the swing set is made of metal, has plastic swings, and is, quote, in brand new condition, with considerable rusting metal. Bird excrement occasionally materializes and dematerializes on its surface. So, it's new, but it's rusting, and it's clean, but there's bird shit all over it. Okay. There's a flimsy explanation for all of the contradictions, though. The swing set not only alters its appearance to humans and any documentation, including video, pictures, audio, etc. Should you be assigned to the sad swing set, it will play psychological games with you as well. You'll find yourself growing increasingly concerned about a swing set, as if it's a small child or made of glass, but if you stay away from it for a good 48 hours, the feeling goes away. But you'll never be able to completely forget about it because, according to SCP-2483 itself, one day no one will remember it. I get the feeling SCP-2483 is doing a bit of its own SCP entry writing, and that's just a tad unfair. If every SCP got to do their own entry, they would all be, I'm great!
Now let me out.
One of the best parts of this SCP entry is the log entry. For instance, one agent was injured when the swing set, quote, materialized inside of him, which ended in him losing one of his limbs. Then another agent tried to use the swings, and the guy who saw the whole shindig happen reported, I think SCP-2483 gave him an underduck. He'll never come down. Cool. Death by flying into the stratosphere and eventually outer space. I always wanted to suffocate and freeze alone in the vacuum of space. But what does it all mean? Maybe the sadness of leaving behind childhood, represented by a dilapidated swing set that sometimes appears new and pristine, and maybe in your memories, but when you encounter the real thing, you're hit with the reality of time and its effects on the swing set, the rust and decay, and the effect on you as an adult that has much the same outcome. Maybe the swing set is sad, all the chillins are gone. Maybe the SCP is the memory of a child itself, manifested. That would be kinda cool. Currently, SCP-2483 is in one of the Foundation's isolation zones. Great. The document says, quote, give it the space it needs. Alrighty. Will do, Mr. Playground. No more underducks. Number 2 on our list, Playground of the Lost, SCP-1094, SCP Class Safe? Wait. What? How? How is this safe? Alright, I'll carry on, but I'll have you know that Cayleigh Class thinks this is not safe, not in the least, unless you're looking to go missing. So this all began when a small town had several children go missing around the same time, and the only connection between them wasn't a creepy perv, but a particular playground complete with seesaws, merry-go-rounds, slides, monkey bars, and swing sets. From the outside, it appears as a normal playground, but it's haunted, or possessed, rather, by ghostly entities that make the equipment move on its own every once in a while. That, in and of itself, isn't that bad, but this isn't just a haunted playground, it's motherfucking SCP-1094. Get near it, and you'll have an overwhelming urge to throw away responsibility and go play like you're 5 again. The closer you get, and the younger you are, the stronger the urge, and most children will give in to that urge. Adults can resist it, but god damn it, everyone is just having so much fun. Whee! One problem. Playing on the playground becomes the only thing you really care about, and eventually you vanish altogether. No one technically sees how, since anyone who's gone missing has done so conveniently while out of sight, sliding down a slide or crawling through a tunnel. So what about a haunted kidnapping playground is scary? I think this one definitely plays on every parent's fear and every child's sort of underlying fear. Last thing you want to ever happen is to have your kids go missing, and I feel like a playground is where one can be very easily distracted and then bam, kid has vanished. As a kid, there's this mystique and mystery on a playground when you're playing pretend. But what if pretend became reality and you lost your parents in the shuffle? What if the tunnels never ended for you on the inside and you were lost forever? Pretend is cool until mom isn't around to pack your lunch for you, or around at all for that matter. Currently, SCP-1094 is disguised as an office building. Great. A place where there is very little joy and where horsing around is not allowed. I still always look on and envy at children who are small enough to crawl through the wondrous world of playgrounds, but now I'm a little bit happier to be an adult. And number 1. Warning! Fucking sound the sirens, this one gets really gross. If you don't like the words amniotic fluids or anything associated, yeah, use that discretion your mama gave you. SCP class, Euclid. Cayleigh class, nope. No thank you. So this is, great. Childhood ruining, essentially. You'll never look at a McDonald's playground the same ever again. That is if they're still around. Kids and their iPads these days. So, SCP-1904 is in an undisclosed restaurant in Maryland, of all places, but we all know it's a Burger King or a McDonald's. You know, just imagine one of the plastic monstrosities you played inside after ingesting meat that's probably only half digested in your stomach a decade later. You're welcome. Except this playground occasionally shakes, rumbles, and can be heard moaning, shrieking, gagging, or choking for hours at a time. The SCP Foundation calls this a gestation cycle, which can last days or months, or really who knows how long, and who cares, 'cause ew. And then, I'm just gonna read this next part, 'cause ew. During this time, trace amounts of blood, amniotic fluids, and uterine tissues can leak with increasing frequency from structures lowest entry, aka the bottom of the funnest slide. The various fluids were tested and found to have no DNA matches, but what's even better is all of the rumbles culminate into a giant contraction, and there's a, quote, violent expulsion of tissues and an instance of one or more of SCP-1904-1 appears, aka the demon child of the playground's literal tubes. Can we tie those tubes, please? Please? I'm going to refer to SCP-1904-1 as Demon Child. And don't get it twisted, I'm not saying if you were born with a genetic defect, I think you're a monster. When I was reading this, I imagined the demon children to be the size of the opening of the tubes. So, giant. And I have a real problem with giant babies. Not like 16-pound motherfuckers, like baby elephant-sized motherfuckers.
Demon Child looks like a human embryo at different stages of development and has higher stages consistently having severe congenital deformities.
But, yet another fun fact, the demon children have a survival rate of 100% unless something comes along and kills them, aka me. Where's the flamethrower? They also don't age, so they stay that scary. Oh, and sometimes they also try to reproduce with one another. And if that isn't fucked up, gosh darn it, I don't know that I want to be on this earth anymore. But apparently SCP-1904 does have a soul, because anytime one of its chillins, or the demon children, are killed, the tunnels emit a screaming and weeping sound. And the incident reports for this one are, well, they're grand. You like fucked up stuff. Basically, someone went inside with surveillance equipment, because that's what you do, and eventually SCP-1904 spits out the person in, quote, a fluid eruption. The person that is spit out is definitely the person who went in, only now it resembles a demon child, and it is terminated. How fun. But I'll let you gander at that last entry in the incident report yourself if you like, because it's fucked up. Let's just say we don't want to dismantle this thing. We should really just keep letting it do its gestation thing. But what does it all mean? Maybe it represents the not-so-pleasant side of birth, or all the ways it can go wrong and the devastation of that. Things aren't always sunshine and rainbows when you're being ripped in two, from what I understand, and unfortunately, sometimes the outcome is devastating, hence the crying of the mother, or in this case, the Burger King playground. The playground has never been moved, but it's no longer in a restaurant, thank God. Now it's a government facility. Under no circumstances should anyone play inside of 1904. Even saying that sounds wrong given the context, but that's fine with me. Wasn't planning a vacation there anyways, but can you imagine the horror of being the first person to discover that this was not a typical playground, but a living, breathing, reproductive thing? Yeah, again, no. So today's SCPs have taught me that childhood memories decay, just like my aging body. That playgrounds really are magical places where you really can disappear, and oh yeah, I definitely still don't want kids. Amniotic fluid. Again, you're welcome. I've intentionally left out bits and pieces of info from each SCP entry, just to give you guys a chance to explore it if you want, so all links to today's SCPs can be found in the description below. Have fun, and feel free to comment below adding your interpretations or requesting SCPs if you want me to cover those, etc.
Special thanks to the Patreon family. The names you see on screen are just some of the people who financially contribute to this channel. Whether they are passionate about dark content on this channel or unsolved cases, their support cannot be overstated. If you are interested in supporting the channel, information is in the description, but even if you only continue to support by watching, thank you. Thank you all for watching the video. I won't be touching anything playground related for a while now, but you do you, boo. Like the video, leave a comment, and all that jazz. If you want to see more vids from me, you can click any of the videos on screen now. Check your plumbing, friends, and I mean that in more ways than one. And have a good night.